Is that where people are going wrong?
People put stuff online and they think they're going to get engagement. Marketers watching this, you should be doing on a monthly basis.
Today's guest isn't just a digital marketing strategist, he's a digital marketing scientist. In fact, Steve Pailthorpe is so strong in this area, this is the third time he's been on this podcast, sharing the highest standards and know-how of digital marketing.
Most people say, oh, well, you can have a free consultation. I don't care about your free consultation. Who gives a... The reason that you're probably not getting the most out of ChatGPT or AI at the moment.
Steve's the founder and chief marketing officer at Iconic Digital. Get ready, Steve's here to show you how to get more leads, more conversions, and more return from your marketing spend. Let's do this.
What can you give away to them that's going to add meaningful value? And there are a list of emojis from B2B and both B2C which perform better than others. Aubergines and peaches probably don't use those ones, right? But there is a list. Go ahead, have a look at it.
Don't use them.
ActionCOACH, the help you need to grow your business.
Steve Pailthorpe, I've had to ask you to come back 3 times. I've not had any guests come back 3 times, but I've brought you back for a reason. Because you spoke so well on marketing, and marketing is ever moving, ever changing. Has it ever been this tough?
Marketing is absolutely everything. And the problem, James, is that most business owners still to this day, even after talking about this for how many years have we been talking about marketing? Yeah. Most business owners still don't know where they're getting their leads from, what's working. And as a result, there are so many things that cause marketing to change. And because of the speed of change that we're living in at the moment, what tends to happen is that people adjust to one practice that works for them right now, but they then don't evolve it. So the measuring, the testing, the learning, the constant changing pace with things like AI means that people are just not getting the results they need. And if you're watching this today, guys, and you were getting great results 6 months ago, but you're not now, then this podcast is for you.
Wow. So some people listening were probably getting results 6 months ago, but they're not now. But some people will be the other way around as well. Now, we are talking digital marketing here. And you said you don't know where you're getting your leads from. Why not? Why do people not know where they're getting the leads from?
Well, the thing is, these days, most people are still thinking about marketing as a one-size-fits-all approach. The reality is you've got your digital asset, which I call the website, okay? So if you're thinking about your online marketing strategy, forget about having a funnel here and a funnel there. We need to have a website that works. If your website's fundamentally not converting traffic into leads, you're not able to know the number of MQLs that are being generated, then there's no point. And I think I said in the last podcast, I use the analogy of having a really lovely car. You know, I love fast cars, I love sports cars. You can have the most beautiful looking car on your drive, but if the engine of that vehicle isn't ticking over properly, then it's never going to move forward. It's the same with a website. You can have a beautiful brand, you can have a lovely website, the most beautiful HubSpot or WordPress, whatever it is you've got, but if you fundamentally haven't got the technical aspects of that site working for you, then it's never going to convert or start funneling that traffic into the right place.
So a website that works, out of curiosity, and lots of stats are made up, so we might be making one up now, or you might know. What percentage of websites actually work properly, like you've just said?
I've got no idea. There isn't a stat out there that I think would know that.
Is it a small number? Is it 50-50? Well, what we're talking?
Look, let me give you the real stats from what we know from tools like Hotjar. Now, Hotjar's heat mapping technology, and Hotjar will say that around 74% of all websites aren't set up for conversion. So I like to talk about the F principle. And guys, this is nothing to do with Gordon Ramsay. This is all about eye tracking study for where people look when they visit your site. So if you were to draw a capital F on your screen, now that could be on a mobile screen, it could be your desktop, laptop, the fridge freezer that you've got one of those cool funky things on now, whatever device it is, draw a capital F. That's where people are going to look on your site within 1.4 seconds.
What, their eyes will make the F shape?
Exactly, yeah. And they start in the top left-hand corner, they go immediately down, immediately across. And it's based on how we're taught to read. So if you're marketing to the Asian audience or the Far East audience, it's actually an inverted F.
Right.
So we've got to focus it in the right place. Why is the F principle important? Because people will make a decision about whether they're meant to be on your site within 1.4 seconds of landing on the page. So if you've positioned all of your good stuff outside of that F, if you've got call to action buttons on the top right-hand corner out of the way, you've got social media icons still in the top view, all of that is going to reduce the amount of engagement. And websites that have a high bounce rate, and a bounce rate being when someone comes off the site without taking any further action.
That's what bounce means.
Yeah. Websites that have a high bounce rate have a low search engine ranking performance. So if you're thinking about getting found on Google or any of the other AI tools where people are searching for stuff, fundamentally, if you've got high bounce rate, you've not got traffic coming to your site.
Starting your own business was an exciting time, wasn't it? The good days you had and the bad. You knew you'd have to work hard, but you did it for your future. Lately, though, you're missing out on the important things in life. Time seems to be slipping by. So make the change. Claim back your work-life balance and grow your business today. Visit actioncoach.co.uk.
The thing that's springing to mind is a bit of a blinding flash of the obvious more than anything. You can put all this time into making it visually look striking, look really nice with pictures, choose the right fonts, choose the right colors. It looks good. But if a graphic designer might have done the job really, really well and the branding is all on point. But if we've not got a marketer literally saying, this is what needs to be there, this is what needs to be there, F-type principle, then the website's not going to work.
Absolutely, but it's more than that, because we can have the most beautiful looking website, even with optimization on it. But if you've not set up the marketing channels to drive targeted, relevant traffic, then all of you've got is a beautiful looking info brochure that's sat there on the web. Fundamentally, if the marketing's not driving traffic, then you're not going to get results. So people often say to me, Steve, we've invested in this beautiful website. It looks phenomenal, fantastic. We've done all of the technical SEO, and I'll look at the traffic stats. They've only got 100 people coming to the site. So how do you expect to draw targeted relevant traffic and get a conversion model in place unless you've got that traffic coming? So we've got to set up those marketing channels, which we call the 7 steps marketing chassis, that sits around the website, and use those 7 different marketing channels to get real results and traffic coming through. Now that traffic's got to be relevant. It's got to be the right persona types for our business. But once we've got those funnels set up to drive that traffic, then the site can begin to start converting. And this is, guys, how you know the numbers. Because once you know the number of MQLs, that's marketing qualified leads, then we can look at the level of optimization that occurs and fine tune. And this is what I mean by marketing being a process. It's not a one-time thing. It's something that begins, we learn, we evolve, it has to develop. And that's a continual process. So if you haven't got that learning mindset within the business, that's fundamentally got to be a core focus of the marketing team, both from a strategy perspective, but also from a tactical delivery perspective.
Yeah, just on the learning mindset thing first, I did another podcast with a guy called James Peach, and he really eloquently described the level of challenge that marketers face on a daily basis. And it is a constant struggle, actually, because of all the testing and measuring and tweaking and changing. It's just ongoing. Now, but right at the start, you said, even if you've got optimization going, are you referring to search engine optimization?
That's a great question.
Are you referring to that or not?
I am, but I don't call it search engine.
Is that a thing of the past?
Well, no, it's not a thing of the past. Let's talk about SEO for a moment. Most businesses know about SEO because for years and years we've been talking about doing SEO to optimize your site. Search engine optimization is what SEO stands for. But we're living in the days now of AI, and AI is evolving both within the Google landscape with what's called Google Gemini. We'll talk about Position Zero in just a moment. But we've also got the whole other area of generative AI, so things like ChatGPT, Copilot, and now we're moving into this new phase of neurosymbolic or symbiotic, I think it's called, AI. And basically what that is the idea that we've got tools that can generate stuff. So you want a prompt, you put it into ChatGPT, you've got some stuff out, but AI can do so much more than that because of understanding the way that it nurtures and evolves things. So if you're searching the internet and you're not using traditional channels like Google and Bing, but you started using Copilot and ChatGPT and whatever others that are out there, then we need our website to be optimized to a multitude of different resources. So no longer is it search engine optimization, James, it's now search everywhere optimization. So how do we optimize our digital asset to be SEO'd to appear on ChatGPT? How do we optimize it to appear in position 0? Now, does that mean we should be stopping doing any SEO for Google? No, absolutely not. People are still using Google than ever before. But here's the thing. With position 0, that's the top spot now that Google generates AI results in, we've got to optimize our site differently to the way many people have been doing it for years.
By the way, search everywhere optimization. Did you just make that up, or is that that a thing?
That is a thing.
All right. So a lot of people are hearing all of that. They probably get it, but it might sound too complicated to do. They don't know where to start.
Yeah. Well, look, the fundamentals of anything to do with SEO begins with keyword research. What are the phrases that people are actually searching right now to find the business? And what we've got to remember here, guys, is the intent behind a search. Let me give you a real practical example. In my world, digital marketing is what we call an informational intent search phrase. In other words, someone who is searching for digital marketing just wants info about marketing, right? And that's fine, but it's very top of funnel, okay? Informational search intent is the first type of intent. The second type of intent is what we call navigational search intent. If someone is searching for Facebook login, okay, they're not looking for information about the social media platform. They're looking for the navigational page to log into Facebook, okay? Simples. Navigational search intent doesn't really fit into the funnel. We've then got commercial and transactional search intent, the two most important types of search intent from a lead generation perspective. Right. So let's look at commercial first of all. So commercial exhibits the fact that the person who is putting that information into a search engine is exhibiting some sort of buying-like behavior. So in my example there, digital marketing, they might have searched for digital marketing agency in London. Now, get it guys, because digital marketing, about 14,000 searches a month. Informational search phrases, high volume. Commercial search phrases, digital marketing agency in London, maybe only 150 people searching for that on a monthly basis. Okay, but that's bringing those people into my funnel. So from brand awareness, information, all the way down to lead generation. The final one is transactional search intent, and that's the game-changing one for lead generation for businesses. Informational search intent is about getting general traffic. Transactional search intent is about getting leads for your business. So what are the phrases that people are searching for to exhibit that transactional intent? The only way you're going to know that is by going onto tools like AnswerThePublic.com. AnswerThePublic.com, free version, paid version, both do the same thing. You can put your business topic, your industry, your sector, put it into Answer the Public, and that's going to give you a list of every search question that your ideal customers and prospects are searching the internet in the last 90 days. Those questions are the things that are going to go into your blog plan. Those questions are the things that are the phrases that are exhibiting buying-like intent. And transactional intent means that we're no longer looking at digital marketing agency in London, but we might be looking at something like who's the best digital marketing company that works with coaches in the UK, for example. A lot longer and a lot smaller volume of searches, but the transactional relevance behind that utterly off the scale. So if you want to be getting leads, you've got to do that keyword research at the start. Once you've done keyword research, then it's the process of taking that technical SEO onto the site, adding in your metadata, titles, descriptions, content, all of that good stuff that we all know how to do. Okay, once you've done that, then we need to focus on link building. So I've got my cup. Here's the analogy again. We've got a container. A website is a container of link juice, which is called domain authority. So how does Google or any of the other AI solutions know which site to rank where? Well, ultimately, it's about how much domain authority does your site have. Because if you and me, James, we've got the same content on our website, we've got the same keywords that we're targeting, how does Google tell which of us should rank higher? Well, first of all, it's about user experience. It's about the expertise, authority, and trust. We call those the EAT parameters, E-E-A-T. All of those things are on page. But then when we look at the off-page stuff, that's the stuff that really benefits the site. It's about how do we get enough link juice or domain authority. So link juice comes from links. The reality is that if we analyze most of the people who are watching this podcast right now, the number of toxic links that you've got coming to your site is probably too high.
What's a toxic link?
A toxic link is a website that has a very low domain authority score that is linking to your site. So things like cheap directories, things that don't have any content behind them. And those links, they're not topping you up with anything. In any fact, they're basically puncturing a hole in the bottom of your mug and it's pouring out the bottom because Google doesn't pass any credibility for those toxic links. Simple way to fix it, guys, at the moment, you can just go into the Google Search Console, you can analyze all those links and you can then disavow all of the links that are toxic. Simple. They're not going to disappear from the internet, but we've told Google, please do not consider these links in my ranking score. And then begin that process. Marketers watching this, you should be doing SEO on a monthly basis. The value of a link only lasts about 3 months. So if you've stopped link building, then your website is going to begin to go into decline from that moment forward. So link building is still a fundamental component to making sure that that digital asset, that website, performs well.
Your book deserves to be published, and selfpublishing.com wants to help make it happen. You'll work one-to-one with an author strategist to write, publish, and market your book the right way. With more than 8,000 authors and 100,000 books in print, they know what works. Ready to bring your story to life? Visit selfpublishing.com/ActionCOACH right now.
I dare say some of the listeners right now are pressing pause and going on to AnswerThePublic.com and finding out the transactional intent. So I get it. In actual fact, it reminded me of Stephen Covey. He says, sharpen the saw. You know, if you have 5 hours to chop a tree down, what should you do first? Well, invest the first 4 hours sharpening the saw, make your life easier. And the best salespeople on the planet actually make fewer calls and have a higher average sale because there's nowhere to go. Do the work first. That's what I heard there. Put the effort into this because the return is going to be higher.
That's right.
Is that where most people get it wrong?
I think most people get it wrong because they think that SEO, as a search everywhere optimization, is an afterthought of launching a website. So rather than beginning to think about your website content and search engine or search everywhere optimization at the start, what people do is they design, build a website, get it live, and they go, hey Steve, can you come and just do this SEO work on my site? And sure we can, and that's what we do every day of the week in our agency, but we're going to have to go back and do that keyword research. Then we're going to have to put it onto the website. Then we're going to have to get the technical SEO working. And then finally, we can begin the link building process. Most business owners get SEO wrong because you start with building a website and then you hand it over to someone and ask them to do SEO. Wrong, wrong, wrong. You've got to begin again and think about SEO as being a central component to the content on your site from the very word go.
You mentioned a lot of things there. I'm going to ask you about AI as well coming up. The listeners definitely want to do that. There's clearly a process to this of generating leads. I just want to talk about the bit that every listener's bothered about. ROI, return on investment from marketing. And some of the listeners have invested in various different marketing companies, various hired marketing people, not got the return on investment. And they've been scolded. So they get learned helplessness. The fear then going with someone else or something else.
Absolutely. Let's address that elephant in the room right now. Return on investment is exactly what marketing's about. You know, we've said this before, the most important department in your business is your marketing function, because without marketing operating, you're not getting leads, you're not getting business growth. And when we think about marketing, it's always divided into 3 areas: brand awareness, top of funnel; market engagement, mid funnel; lead generation, bottom of funnel. Okay. And if you're a small business owner, you've probably put all of your money tools into the bottom of the funnel, thinking that's where my lead generation is going to happen, but possibly then ignored some of the market engagement strategies or the brand awareness piece that is equally important. Now, big businesses get it. They understand that they've got to split their marketing budget between brand engagement and lead generation. They'll do that probably 33% on each.
Is that ideal?
Absolutely. That's the ideal world. But bear in mind, things like above the line media, paid media, it's not cheap, it's expensive. But it gives you that overall brand awareness that then draws down to the lead generation engagement silos. So really, really important when we focus on return on investment, remember that marketing is not just a one hit and that's it. It's a learning process. So what I often say to clients is we're going to have to go through a learning phase when it comes to Google Ads and Meta Ads, okay? 2 of those marketing channels. The Meta ecosystem, that's everything on Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, anything within Meta's universe. Google Ads, of course, we've got the display network, the search network, remarketing across those regions as well. Okay, so we've got 2 distinct paid media channels. Both of those channels will take you through a 2-week learning window. During that learning window, the AI that sits behind those ads is learning the behavior of the audience. It's also learning what your ads are doing in terms of performance. Now, in your learning phase, you're going to be restricted by the amount of volume you can target, and you're also going to be restricted in the number of leads generated. So most people will think, okay, well, let's try this. Let's put £500 budget on this, and a couple of weeks later, they've made a change. No, you've got to leave it for that 2-week period to let it do its thing. But think about it more proactively. If I'm working on a basis of a £1 cost per click, just as an example, and say I'm spending £1,000, then that is 1,000 sessions coming to my landing page. Now, if we do all the smart things about optimizing that landing page, we're going to get between a 3 and a 13% conversion to that landing page. When I model that, I take right down the middle, around 6.5% as the way to model conversion. So if I'm not getting that over the 2-week period, I've got to start learning myself and working out what's going wrong. Too often, we're too quick to put the axe down on our marketing without taking it through that learning period. And therefore, we've limited the budget to begin with because we've not spent the right amount, we've not modeled it. And if we have modeled it, we've not gone in at the right level. And what that's going to do is it's going to cause there to be a depreciation in the amount of leads that you're getting, and also the quality is going to be less because established advertisers who've been paying much bigger budgets, they've already been and done this process. So if you're going to be a new entrant into that market, you're coming up against some of those other big boys, you've got to do the modeling right and you've got to come in at the right level.
Really powerful. I mean, I want to go back to the start, what you said there, the 3 levels. So you got top of funnel brand awareness, mid funnel market engagement, and bottom of funnel lead gen. The big businesses get it. The corporates do. They get it. They've learned all of the stuff. They've built all of the systems. So 1/3 on each. But the thing that strikes me is, so for some small businesses, they I don't know, they might get a celebrity, or they might get the whole business out of the business for a day and go do some filming and get some cameras in and produce a lot of content. It might cost them $5,000. And they think that they've got the marketing content now, but I wonder what the ideal split is between, all right, we've put $5,000 into the filming day. Now, how many thousand do we need now to put into the marketing of this? Because otherwise, if you don't market all of this good stuff you've got the best kept secret.
Absolutely, and a lot of people do that, don't they? You spend all the time doing a great podcast, You've hired the room, you've got the kit in, you do the video, whatever, but then we're not actually doing with it. Or worst case scenario, you go and stick it on your website.
I wonder if it's a 25%, 20. So if it costs you $5,000 for the day, then you need $5,000 on brand awareness, $5,000 invested in market engagement, and $5,000 on lead gen.
So the way I look at it is probably slightly different. I look at it using a framework, which we built this framework about 6 years ago. We call it the 7 steps marketing chassis. Right. Essentially starts with your website at the center, the digital asset, and it then looks at the 7 marketing channels that sit around the digital asset that drive targeted relevant traffic to the site. Now, this is what some people call omni-channel marketing. It's the idea of using all of those marketing channels effectively. Some of those channels sit in brand awareness. Okay, digital PR, when we're putting things out on paid or even free PR channels, that is top of level brand awareness. It's not going to necessarily lead generate for you. It's going to be very hard to track, but it's going to give you that top level understanding that you're doing stuff in the market, creating stories and that sort of stuff. In the market engagement space, in the middle, we got tools like content marketing, and social media. People say, well, Steve, we just talked about meta ads. Surely that's lead generating. Yes, advertising, so paid media channels is, but the stuff that you're doing, just putting information out on social media, that's not lead generation focused, that's market engagement, okay? So if we understand that...
Is that where people are going wrong?
People put stuff online and they think they're going to get engagement. Guys, the stuff you're putting on your social media channels isn't going to generate anything for you unless it's got some sort of paid media behind it. It's the reality of it. And these days...
the purpose of it is to engage.
Absolutely. It's all about how you position yourself. And remember, I love what Brad Sugar says about this. Our social media has to be both entertaining, it's got to be informational, and it's got to educate. Okay? If it's not doing those three things together, then it's just not going to get any level of engagement. So if you're sat there and perhaps you're in that TikTok jail, you're only getting 200 views, well, look, just realize that your content, it's not that the content's necessarily bad, it might not just be hitting some of those parameters. But remember, it's not meant to lead generate, it's meant to educate, it's meant to entertain, it's positioning you as a thought leader. So if you want leads at the bottom of the business, at the bottom of the funnel, you've got to think about how much money we're going to put behind the promotion of any of these content assets.
Yeah, look, appreciation of it all, really. You know, the top funnel, mid funnel, and the lead generation piece. Now, what you did say several times in there, you alluded to landing pages, conversion pages, because if you do this right and you get the omnichannel marketing set up with your website in the middle, when people go to a conversion page, we've got to get more than 6.5%, yeah? What's the keys to getting a landing page more than... Is it a landing page? Is it a conversion page, by the way? Which one is it?
We'll talk about funnels in a little bit because I do want to make a comment about funnels. But let's talk about landing pages because people get this wrong. And bear in mind that most of your audience is going to be looking through one of these, through a mobile device. Okay, there will be some nuances depending on sector. But when I look at most of my clients to see where the traffic's coming from paid advertising, 60 to 70% of all traffic tends to come from a mobile device first. So if your landing page isn't set up for mobile optimization and we're not doing a stackable offer on that page, I'll clarify what I mean by that in just a moment. If we're not setting that up for mobile optimization, then we're alienating that audience. So what's a stackable offer? A stackable offer is an offer that is so compelling that it just automatically wants the audience, they're prepared to give anything away. They'll give their data, they'll put their email address in because they want what you are offering. Most people say, oh, well, you can have a free consultation. I don't care about your free consultation. Who gives a, what's it, you know? What can you give away to them that's going to add meaningful value? So things like education resources, white papers, video series, training. Is there anything, discounts that you can offer? Is there any free resources that you can add? So one of the most powerful stackable offers that I've run lately is offering a £2,500 free consultation. I've put a number on the consultation. This is how much it's going to cost us and how much we're prepared to invest for that. And by the way, when you give us your details, you're going to get access to 1 year's worth of training. You're going to get a free copy of our Digital Revolution book. You're also going to get all of this other stuff. It's a stackable offer that someone then goes, bloody hell, that's amazing. Yeah, I'll have that. And even if they don't want to go ahead with the consultation or the free audit or whatever it is we're offering, they want all of the other stuff. So they're more prepared to give away their data. So if your landing page is not set up to give a clear stackable offer, it's going to fail straight out.
I mean, the likes of Alex Hormozy, obviously, he's put a lot of magnification onto that area. And there's, you know, the top marketing people like yourself will talk about stackable offers. He calls it irresistible offers. I don't know whether it's his or someone else's. All these quotes are everybody's, aren't they? So an irresistible offer. But he also says, if you try 100 offers, 100 different stackable offers, I guarantee, this is what he says in one of his speeches or quotes or his book, I guarantee one of them will work. Now, are people doing enough offers?
No, and people are not split testing their offers. So the best agencies are going to come and they're going to say, right, here's 20 stackable offers. And then we're going to put a very, very small amount of paid media budget on Meta or Google, and we're going to drive traffic. 20 different landing pages.
That's effort again, isn't it?
Yeah,
That's
of course it is. But here's the thing, James. Most business owners will go, oh, I'm going to spend £500, just design me one thing, and then they moan when they're not getting the results. We need to have sufficient number of pages designed that we can then begin to split test against. Once you do the split testing, yes, it takes time. It means we've got to be committed to it. But you will see out of those 20 pages that 2 or 3 or maybe even 5 are the ones that perform the most. Go with the ones that perform. That's the whole purpose of learning, measuring, and testing. The reason you're failing in your marketing strategy is you're not prepared to measure and test.
Actually, I go back one stage before that. He goes back to the Stephen Covey sharpen the saw. The first 4 hours, we sharpen the blade, and then we go for it. You know, even if, I'm making this up, but you took a day out of your business, you got all 25, 30 people in the room and say, right, guys, we've got one day. We've got to come up with 20 stackable offers, literally a day out to get the 20. I mean, that's a lot of effort. That's a lot of time. It's a lot of intentional focus. But in my mind, based on what you're saying, that's effort well spent.
Absolutely. And we've got to make sure that we're thinking about our persona targeting as part of that. If we're targeting multiple people, then the offers are going to be different to those personas. So we've got to think, first of all, who is the individual that we're targeting?
How many personas should we have?
That's totally up to you. It depends on the business.
What's ideal?
But there isn't one size fits all. It depends on your prospect.
I've heard like 3, 4.
And I think
avatars, personas, ideal customers, all means the same thing.
I think it can vary. You know, most people are familiar with the DISC personality profile spectrum. You might have someone who is owner-manager of a business who might be a high D or a high I. Then you might have a sales director who's similar, but then you've got a customer service person who might be an S or a C. So the way in which we behave then needs to, the messaging and the targeting needs to be different to those different personas.
Personalisation, really. That
absolutely.
Is personalisation the same as targeting or different?
Segmentation, targeting, positioning, going back to the old traditional theories. First, we focus on segmenting the audience. Then we look at the targeting of who it is that we're going to. And then finally, the positioning of our offers. That's the order and the flow.
Yeah, but it's also accepted generally, you know, human to human. Yeah, we're not talking AI to AI. It's generally a personal approach and, you know, helping someone feel understood and making it about them and that whole personalized, is that across all 3 of them areas?
I think it is, absolutely.
Everything's got to be personalized.
Everything has to be personalized. The challenge we have in this era of AI that we're living in is if you've got an AI and I got an AI, our AIs might end up just talking to each other, and actually I've never got to meet James Vincent or even speak to the real James Vincent because our AIs have been having a dialogue with each other. And the customer
I don't think we're there yet, are we? We're not at that stage yet.
We're not far away from that, James. I think in the next 6 months, with the evolution of neurosymbiotic AI, it's moving out of just pure generative AI to a parameter in which an AI can think, behave, and act within some railroad tracks. Now, the more smart people get and the more these tools are embedded within businesses, we're going to find more and more things being used like that.
You mentioned Google Gemini earlier on. So anyone that's got Google, like that's powering their business through Google, obviously that's different to Microsoft. Should they be using Google Gemini?
Absolutely, yes. So Google Gemini is the AI that sits behind Google's algorithm. Okay, we have now this new area called Position 0. So years ago, we had the top 10 spots, 1 to 10, and obviously getting to position 1 was like the top spot because that was the one that generated the most traffic from someone putting a search into Google. These days, Google has now introduced Position 0. Position 0 appears above the ads, it appears above everything, and Google is no longer giving away its traffic to websites. So throughout the entirety of 2025, there is an emerging trend that traffic being passed from Google search is reducing every single month. Why? Because Google is answering the questions that people are searching for, transactional, commercial intent phrases. It's answering those within the results of the search engine. So it's not passing that traffic over to your site as it used to, but it's trying to answer that within the search engine. So the most important thing here is how do you get your website into that position 0 slot? And that's something called rich snippets, which need to be added into your website. So this goes back to, how do I build my website properly? How do I optimize it? If we haven't got any rich snippets in our website, then our competitors are the ones that are going to be found. So they get all the brand awareness, they get all of the engagement, and our website sat down there at position 3, 4, 5, or wherever it is. And at that point, you've got no traffic, you haven't even got the brand awareness. So Google Gemini, really, really important to understand. And if we're doing that optimization, remember, not just search engine, but search everywhere, then those rich snippets that are featuring there are going to be found in ChatGPT, Microsoft Copilot. They're going to be found in all of the other generative.
Surely less and less search is going on Google because more and more search is going in ChatGPT. I mean, that seems to be the big one that people are using. You know, like even I ask ChatGPT questions and Google questions, and I get better answers sometimes on ChatGPT now.
Yeah, and of course the OpenAI is constantly evolving in the way that it's setting up its search parameters. What you've got to remember here is that Google is set up primarily as a search engine, okay? At the core of the way Google operates, it's a search engine that is powering knowledge throughout the world. ChatGPT, the OpenAI, is not a search engine, okay? It's a generative AI that is using search engines to gather that information. So when AI sits on top of these things, it is still pooling the resources, it's still doing that deep research that we've seen, one of the new features in ChatGPT, but it's still using some of those other parameters.
And it does give you sources as well, doesn't it? Sometimes if you ask it, well, who's got the best one of these, it can give you a link to the websites. It can, so you definitely want to be you want your business appearing on some of the searches or questions that you're asking on ChatGPT, really, don't you?
Absolutely. And look, go and have a look at one of my other videos where I give my create prompt formula for how to set ChatGPT up. So many other things we could talk about to do with that.
There is, but look, in the interest of respect to the listeners, where do we start with this AI thing? Because honestly, I get what you're saying, but I still don't know where to start from a marketing perspective.
From a marketing perspective, we can use AI to help us run some of those 7 different marketing channels. So let's just list those out so that everyone knows what we're talking about here. We're talking about the 7 steps
specifically, use AI to help you run these.
Mm-hmm. So search engine optimization, the first one, always on marketing strategy. Never turn it off, keep it running. We can't really do anything using AI other than helping us to understand big data and perhaps write our meta titles and meta descriptions, the technical aspects. You can do that using ChatGPT or Google Gemini. We've then got paid advertising, which sits around Google's ecosystem and Meta's ecosystem. Both of those have their own embedded AIs within them. Within Google, obviously it's Gemini. And so therefore, if we're running any predictive ads or any ad copy on there, we need to make sure that we're using that best practice approach there. We've then got organic social media. So that's when we're posting content onto the platforms, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, X, formerly Twitter, any of those, YouTube, all of that is sitting in our social media category. We've then got content marketing, okay? Content marketing is where we're producing on-page content and off-page content. On-page content being your blogs. So how long should my blog post be? How often do I produce a blog on my website? The stats and research we're seeing at the moment is that if you're posting at least 3 times per week with 1,000 to 1,500 words, statistically, you're going to get more engagement than if you're just posting once a week. So how do we go and generate that content? Well, you can use things like ChatGPT and generative AI to go ahead and produce articles. However, beware. A ChatGPT-esque blog is going to include a lot of AI markup parameters, and Google reads your blog, it understands that. So ChatGPT produced content isn't going to get ranked online as well as human written content. So go and use ChatGPT.
What's the split? 70-30, 80-20?
Look, what the research we've done is taken straight articles that has come straight out of ChatGPT and we've posted, and then we've looked at ranking position 3 months later. What we can see is that human-generated content far outperforms content generated just by AI from a search engine perspective. Okay, so what I would say, I can't give you a statistic on that one because if I'm quoting a stat, I want it to be 100% accurate. But what I can say is that you can use AI sources to clickbait your subject lines. You can use it to suggest outlines of your content. You can even use it to write content, but you then need to make sure you have humanized that content to get it found.
Line by line.
Exactly. Social media. Go ahead and use social media, use AI to produce all of your social media copy. There's absolutely no point.
I don't think so. I challenge that because I can spot it.
You can, but if you set up your tone of voice parameters correctly.
So people aren't doing that because you could go on LinkedIn this afternoon and I guarantee 9 out of 10 posts will be covered in emojis.
Yep, sure. Well, that's all down to the way that you've briefed your AI, isn't it?
Or not briefed them. Yeah. Or not briefed them.
So let's just talk about briefing AI just for one moment. Because before you do anything, remember on ChatGPT that you've got your different channels. Your channels is where it's siloing that chat to anything that is put into it. That means that ChatGPT is going to remember the history. So before we do anything, we need to tell ChatGPT who we are, the way we like to communicate stuff, what our business is about, and we need to go through a process. So I've developed a form essentially that I complete for every one of my clients, and I put them into a channel, and that basically will tell ChatGPT how to generate content that sounds like that individual. Now for me, in my own persona, I've done exactly the same for me. When I write content, even when I set ChatGPT to integrate with my Outlook to respond to all my emails, it sounds like me. It doesn't have emojis. Actually, most of the listeners know that I'm also a religious man and I run a church as well as being involved in the business. And I've got two different personas because if I'm talking about Bible stuff, well, ChatGPT, it might surprise you, knows the Bible better than me. But the way in which I communicate on that channel is very different to the way that I can't communicate as a CEO of an agency. So two different personas that are set up, two totally different channels that are then in operation. Once we've done that legwork, we need to make sure we're briefing it in the right way. The most important prompt outcome that I always say at the end of a mega prompt is confirm to me that you have understood the instruction and ask me any additional questions that you need before you generate the response. So by doing so, you're asking the AI, do you understand what we're talking about here? Is there anything else you need to know that I haven't covered in the mega prompt? Okay, so out of respect for everyone here today, this isn't a video about AI, but we have developed a prompt formula which I call create. Okay, the first one of create stands for character. That's the character that the AI is going to act in. The reason that you're probably not getting the most out of ChatGPT or AI at the moment is because you're not prompting it in the right way. So set the character. Act as an experienced digital marketing manager with 20 years experience writing copy for the internet. Great. That's the character. Okay. So then we go into all of the other elements. You could use the act as so act as an experienced business coach. Act as, or even impersonate Richard Branson and give me advice about this subject, right? So setting the character of the AI, most people don't do. So remember, you then can set the type of outputs. You can set the way that you want that information to be displayed to you. You can tell it which emojis to use and which not to use. I've done research over the last 6 months on emojis, predominantly from an email marketing perspective. And there are a list of emojis from B2B and both B2C which perform better than others.
Really?
It might surprise you that the two biggest emojis for B2B email is the hourglass emoji and the clock emoji.
Is that right?
Yeah. The two best performing emojis. Okay, for some people watching this might need to just some counsel about using aubergines and peaches. Probably don't use those ones, right? But there is a list. Go ahead, have a look at it.
Don't use them.
Use the right ones in the right space. And it might be overkill. Your industry might not need emojis, guys. But choose which ones you want to use. So just challenging what you said, James. I want my content to be human. I want it to sound like it's me. But we can save hours and hours of time in the production of that text content for social media just by using AI.
Let's talk paid ads, because a lot of paid ads there's a future in that still, yes. And This is lead generation in its purest form, really.
Of course it is, yeah. Paid ads, the most important thing is ROAS, so return on ad spend. How are we getting that? And again, this is down to modeling.
This is ROI, essentially.
It is, yeah. It's just looking at the ad spend we're putting out. If we're spending £10,000 a month on ads or whatever it is, how many leads are we getting from that? How many are moving from MQL to SQL, so marketing qualified lead through to sales opportunity? And what's the levels of optimization that can be brought in on those different ad streams?
I had a big lesson from Brad Sugars a number of years ago, and I educate people on this. He asked this question to an audience. He says, look, how much are you prepared to pay for a customer? and some people said something, and some people went in really low. I'm prepared to pay 50 quid or whatever it was for a really high ticket item. And then some people actually, when they really thought about it, give them 5 minutes to think about it. And play some music, write down how much you're prepared to pay for a customer. And then he says how much you're prepared to pay for a lead. And after that 5 minutes, by the way, people's perceptions of what they're willing to do increased through the roof.
Yes.
All right. So the person at £50 probably finished about $2,500, because they'd worked out the lifetime value, they'd worked out all of the things. But then he says, so how much are you prepared to pay for a lead? And the same happened. He gave him 5 minutes, but when you got that number, you know what you're aiming for. And if it's £100 a lead or £50 a lead to get the click, and then I suppose it becomes really important now, the difference between MQL and SQL, though.
Absolutely, and it's also really important then to understand our numbers in our sales process. So if I'm generating you leads, how many of those are then going to convert to customers? Because then we're talking about CPL, cost per lead, and a CPA, cost per acquisition. Okay, so when we understand those numbers, then it doesn't really matter how many MQLs we're generating, because there's always going to be some bot traffic. There's always going to be some, what I call SLEADs. Okay, it stands for, can we do that? Can we swear on here? A shit lead, right? A SLEAD. Okay, that's just my internal way that I refer to them, because there's always going to be some of those. So how do we get rid of those SLEADs from coming in from paid media?
When we say some, maybe lots.
Yeah, potentially. And these days, this is
depends how well it's been targeted and how sharp on the saw. Surely.
I think it isn't anymore. I think we're living in an age where we've got so much bot traffic. Over the last 6 months, we've been doing a lot of analysis on clients' paid advertising, and we are seeing an emerging trend where more and more bot traffic is being generated to just confuse and try and disrupt the whole thing, even to the point where genuine people's information is put into web forms on sites, and you call the people up and don't even know that I haven't even been to your website. So that type of stuff where there's been data leaked and bots then do crazy things to just try and disrupt the whole thing. Using a tool like ClickCease, okay, go and have a look at it. It's a paid for solution. That's going to limit the ads from being shown in regions that are outside the area of your targeting. So if you're just targeting companies in the UK, it's going to then exclude all the other territories. More importantly, it's going to stop competitors from aggressively clicking on your ads. Okay, it's going to do some cool stuff like that that's going to remove any bot traffic. Okay, once we've done that, we're then helping the ads to be refined as possible, and then it's more about targeting. Which key phrases are we getting our search ads put on? Which targeting have we put on lookalike audiences in Meta? That sort of stuff.
Are funnels still appropriate?
Oh, come on. I love this conversation about funnels. So we've talked already in this podcast about using funnels. Okay, so let's be really clear. We believe in funnels. Funnels are important because a funnel generates an outcome. So what we put in at the top of the funnel, we're going to get some of those people come down, become genuine MQLs, ultimately sales qualified leads, and then we're going to have a proven return on investment. So do we need funnels? Yes. However, Google did a bit of research last year, and it looked at the whole understanding of how people's behavior is constantly changing. And this is why marketing is a moving beast, guys. It's not just a one-size-fits-all. It has to be a measure and tested approach. Google looked at it, and it said, rather than just having a funnel, prospects are intelligent. We know what we're doing. And think about the way you use the internet. You know when you've come onto a landing page. There's nothing else to click on. I'm being given this stackable offer. They understand that. But people's behavior online has fundamentally changed. You are consuming content all the time via your TikTok and your For You feed. You're consuming content as you look at visuals every day. The number of times we see ads is growing exponentially. We're consuming all of this stuff, right? So we're being influenced by perhaps a celebrity influencer. We're being influenced by our friends and our family members, all of these other people. So as consumers, we make behavioral decisions about purchases, not not based on a funnel. We make them based around interactions. And so this is why these days I don't talk about funnels, but I talk about whirlwinds. How do we engage our customers across multiple different omni-channel marketing sites rather than just by one funnel? Because here's how it works. You might do a Google search and okay, we're going to cookie you so we can retarget you, and that's how people will then get ads for the next 3 months about the thing you've just searched.
Surely less people are accepting cookies now.
I think that everyone still accepts cookie. The stats we work on, this was research done in 2024, it shows us that 96% of people accept cookies when they go to websites. I don't think that stat is going to change. People see it as a policy issue rather than as something that's going to be a marketing issue. Okay, so remarketing, that's how that area works. But do you really think that AI tools are not smart to the fact that you're going to be engaging on lots of different channels? No, of course they are. That's why hashtags are dead on TikTok. You don't need a hashtag anymore. You put the hashtag in for some context, but AI already knows what your video's about, guys. Okay, so when we think about the whirlwind, you start with a search. You go onto a website, you're retargeted, you're then presented information across Meta's ecosystem and Google's ecosystem. But then at some point, we are watching you through reverse IP lookup technology, we're watching you through cookies, and therefore we retarget you with some sort of email. And at that point, you've then had an email land in your inbox. You might have then heard something on social media with an influencer and you think, I'll go back to that website. So the whole whirlwind of activity ultimately gets you to the point where you're ready to make a decision. And that's the point of transactional intent. And this is why transactional search intent is probably the most important thing to consider as part of your marketing strategy from a search engine, search everywhere optimization.
Got a few quick, maybe tough questions for you here. I know you like these, Steve.
Come on, hit me.
What's been the hardest lesson in marketing for you?
Wow, you should give me some notice on that question. What's the hardest lesson? Okay. Well, look, the hardest lesson is that I think a few years ago, actually it was about 6 years ago when I've been running the agency for 15 years now, Iconic Digital. We've been growing from my back bedroom 15 years ago now to being a respected global leader in performance marketing. 6 years ago, I realized something. I realized that my strategic marketing approach wouldn't work for every company unless I aligned my digital channels around their needs. So when we talk about the 7 steps marketing chassis as a framework, the framework fundamentally works, but each channel has to be customized to the specific nuances of that market. And if we haven't done that, it's not going to work. And this is why the speed of marketing decision-making is so important. I think most businesses fail because we're too slow to make decisions. Actual fact, it was Deborah Meaden who shared this with me at the last BizX that we were at. And I remember sat on a table with her and she said, Steve, the most important thing when it comes to being successful in business is the speed that you make a decision. And it wasn't about the decision, whether it was right or wrong. It was about how quick could you make a decision? Because if you made a quick decision, even if it was the wrong one, you could change it moments later. So the speed of making decisions to get our marketing results working is really, really important. One more example. I was speaking to a client just three days ago, and this client is a very, very small business, but a very valuable partner to my business. And so because he's a valuable friend, a valuable partner, I thought I'd give him lots of time to help him out. He developed a landing page on lead pages. It's a low-cost tool to set up the landing page, and he had put a budget of £17 a day onto Google Ads. Can you believe it? £17. I'm thinking, well, how much is your click? Well, the click is almost £2 a click. So the guy's getting 7-8 people to his website a day, and he just wasn't getting any conversions. So I'm thinking, well, 8 people to the site a day at a 6.5% conversion. There's no wonder. It's just the campaign is too small. But one of the key learnings that I took from that is that the landing page he was delivering wasn't optimized for mobile. And therefore, he was getting loads of traffic from mobile, but they were seeing something that was totally irrelevant to them on screen. So what was shown on the window on their phone was not the information that he had intended for them to see. So just changing up the website around there then can make those things work. So how quickly, guys, can you make decisions? How quickly can you pivot? And how quickly can you then readjust things to make sure you understand what the CPA is? That's the cost per acquisition. I know in my business, I convert 1 in 4 of my SQLs into paying customers. So that means if I'm prepared to spend £1,000 per customer, well, times that by 4, that's the cost that I'm going to have to invest in getting an SQL. And then how many MQLs go to SQL? Well, usually about 33%. Therefore, I've got to double, I've got to effectively triple that number, and that gives me the amount I should spend on marketing to get my desired outcome.
Reverse engineer the numbers. Yeah, great answer, by the way. Speed of marketing decisions. Of course, it's helped once you've got the 7-step chassis in place. What's the most beautiful thing in marketing?
The most beautiful thing in marketing is how to put a smile on someone's face.
Is that because I was smiling at you when you answered?
No, let me be real. But the reason I love marketing is because marketing is not an art, okay? Creatives out there look at me and think, Steve, what are you talking about? You're in brand, you do creative. Marketing's not an art, it's a science, okay?
A process.
It's a process, yeah, but it's a scientific, innovative approach. That's what we say in our business, that can guarantee return on investment for each of our clients every time. If you set that up, you are going to be absolutely pivotal in your role in the business. So any marketers watching, you have the ability to transform your company from being where it is now to take it to the next level. Wow, that is such a significant thing. Business transformation, bringing change to an organization, that for me is the reason I'm in business. Because I know that my marketing systems can change and bring an impact to society, not just positively in terms of money in shareholders' pockets, but to real people and put a smile on their face.
What's the best gift anyone can give anyone else?
The best gift? Love.
Why do you say love?
Because in the world we live in, there's so many different things that are going on. People don't take time to be kind. People don't take time to understand. People are always wound up focusing on their own things. If you can be a pleasurable experience for the person sat next to you, and we talk about pleasure in a negative context these days, you know, with all the stuff that's going on the internet, you know, we talk about pleasure, we think it's a dirty word, you know, you're created to be a pleasurable experience for the person with you. So how can you show that person a bit of love, a bit of kindness, a bit of care, both in the way that you communicate, the way you act? For me, I always go back to the love languages. You know?
Well, out of love, this morning I got the bakery on site to make you a caramel pastry.
What can I say?
Talk about the pleasure. We had the pleasure of that before.
That
this
was love. But also a bit of hate as well, because you weren't thinking about my stomach.
Oh, well. You only had half of it, though, so there you go. I had the other half.
You did.
Okay, so now we've done this podcast, what should the headline be? And where should we put it?
Well, first thing is we need to go onto ChatGPT and we need to ask it to produce 12 clickbait subject lines off the back of the transcript of this blog. So we're going to take this podcast, we're going to go to Veed.ai, which is a tool that basically will take the video content and it will produce you a transcript. We're going to whack that transcript into ChatGPT and we're going to say, this is a marketing podcast. And this is with Steve Pailthorpe and James Vincent. By the way, it's the third time. Woohoo! Nice to be back. Third time of being on the podcast. What should the subject line be? And we're going to ask it to give us 6 to 12 clickbait subject lines based on the audience that are watching. Business owners, sales directors, managing directors of companies in the UK. Off the back of that, it's going to generate that response. We then choose the one that's most appropriate. We should go for it, guys. See what comes from it. It might be brilliant.
A marketing scientist, not a creator. The creators would have fallen for the trap and they'd come up with something, wouldn't they? So true to form. All right, so what should the call to action be?
Call to action from this podcast should be, if you want to know more, then of course I would love to have a conversation with you. But look, this is about educating you here today. If you want to take advantage of one of those stackable offers, just head over to our website, iconicdigital.co.uk. Still running the one that's best performing, £2,500 of free consultancy time. If you tell them that you come from BizX, then I'll throw in an extra £1,000 of ad spend for your next campaign. How about that?
There we go. You know what my favourite bit has been is, you know, the transactional intent, very, very powerful. Was unaware of that. The appreciation that we gave the sort of top of funnel, mid funnel and lead generation at the bottom of the funnel, 33%, 33%, 33%. That's the gold standard, really, in corporate level. But what is it in small businesses? Probably just give me as many leads as you can type thing. So spread the budget, definitely like that. But love the speed of marketing decision making.
Time has gone, but we haven't even talked about email. So perhaps there's another podcast here, because, you know, my last webinar on email marketing, 457 people on it just 2 weeks ago. Email marketing is still probably the biggest tool that you could be used to lead generate. If you're in B2B and you're running webinars, if you're running podcasts, if you're doing anything like this where you've got creative content and you want to get people in your virtual room or even in person, then you've got to be using email. I run Iconic Live every quarter. It's a half-day training seminar. Every time we have a minimum of 100 people in the room. My next podcast, or my next webinar, I should say, is happening in a few weeks' time, and it's on search engine optimization. Off the back of this, if you want to know more about SEO, there's already 400 people registered for that event. Head over to the website, you can do that. And we'll then give you the tools and the resources to how to do that email series. In actual fact, about 6 months ago, we completed a piece of research, which is something we've been running for over 3 years now. And the piece of research put together a 12-week campaign strategy for how to get the maximum number of people into a webinar. We've tweaked it, measured, tested, tweaked, and it's produced so many great results. We've now deployed it across client accounts, and we're seeing phenomenal results. So if you want to get people in the room and you want to get data, we can help you with all of that, but that's for another day.
Email marketing, though, it's a general point, isn't it? It is here to stay. It works for bottom of funnel people coming in.
I said this last time, and it's a great hook, so I'm giving it to you again, James. But after watching today, you're never, ever, ever going to send a newsletter again. Okay, 3 things with email: trust, interest, action. Trust from the sender alias, interest from the subject line, action from the preview pane. These days, the preview pane has been taken over by AI. It's going to tell you what's in your email. So never send a newsletter, send a 3-paragraph plain text email instead, and your results are going to go far better than you ever thought possible.
Steve Pailthorpe, thank you very much, sir.
Great to be with you again, James. Always a pleasure.